Good morning. I am in No Business Creek in Big South Fork, and we're going to be checking a few old home places out. Going to be a lesson about the first and the last. I remember my first trip to Big South Fork 30 years ago, doing Angel Falls Overlook and the Grand Gap Loop. You get a bunch of old hikers around a campfire at night, and one of the conversations becomes the last one. And we all know that at some point in time we'll do our last hike. Don't know when that is. I want to quote my buddy Jim Hayes and say that there's no such thing as a bad hike. Good hikes and great hikes. So make every hike at least a good hike and enjoy every moment, because really we don't know when the last one's going to be. Alrighty, looking at the remnants of an old rock wall. There's an old home place up on the hill up there we found a while back. May well be where the Richard Slaven originally settled in the early 1800s. He's the first one down here, first settler came in, and from there it grew into No Business.
Time they had to play in the creek.
Jimmy had a good eye. He found this old pot up against the rock. We're just milling around the old Lee Crabtree place. Good eyeball. House set up here on this flat. Been here before, but always come back and find something else. Dead giveaways, always look for remnants of flowers, daffodils and buttercups. Another pile over there. That's always an indication. Of course, here's the foundation stones, probably the porch, but rusted out buckets and remnants of old flowers. Another bucket from the Greenwood place right on the road. Got some really old 22 shells in the side. Somebody using it for target practice back in the day. Just happened to look over to the right and noticed signs of beaver up here. That is very, very new. So some beaver in No Business. Alrighty, we're at the Nancy Smith graveyard, and about 10 or 12 graves. June Slaven, 1906. Another Headstones, footstones. I think my buddy Jimmy, we were getting ready to give up because we were way up the hill, and he found this tape. Good for him. Another grave. Another grave. Another grave. There's about 10, maybe 12 graves in what used to be the main cemetery down here, and then there was we see how steep it is. There was a rock slide, and that stopped the grave from being built, and Terry Cemetery started. And here's the one that's all named for, Nancy Smith. August 1861. We've been to her husband's, Elijah Smith, in Station Camp. He's got a unique orange looking stone, and she's down here propped up against a rock. Another grave. Another grave, and you can see where literally see where the slide occurred years and years ago, which stopped the graves from being built. Another grave. Another grave. Alrighty, we've found the Holy Grail here. RS 1840-ish. Some folks would say this is the first person ever into no business, Richard Harvey Slaven. And this is the stone that people think may be his grave. No definitive answer whether there is or isn't, but definitely it could well be the first grave, Richard Slaven. Very thrilled to find it. Alrighty, we're gonna talked about the first. The first is Richard Harvey Slaven. We found what may be his tombstone there at the Nancy Smith Cemetery. And now we're going to check the last. That would be Dewey Slaven. Very interesting man. He lived out here with his sister. He was the last to leave no business, so it's a story of the first and the last. The first is Richard Slaven around 1800, and the last is Dewey Slaven, 1960. Lived out here till he got sick and moved on back to the big city. Last one out of here. The Great Exodus started around 1945, right after the war. Typical of all of these remote communities, especially around where I live, that men came back that had been overseas and saw there was a big world out there and didn't want to live in a remote hollow, and folks started migrating out slowly after the war, and Dewey was the last one. Stories are he was very hospitable and hunters and fishermen would stop in and talk. What I liked with the story is that he didn't get up till around 9 o'clock. He waited for the sun to get up over the hill, and that's my kind of guy. The first and the last. Since he was the last one to leave, his home site is still relatively clear. Old metal pan, foundation stones, remnants of the chimney still standing. We've been here before a few times, myself and my hiking buddy Randy Neal. Stovepipe, old metal buckets. And the other thing that Randy and I found, and you find it everywhere, station camp here on out in these remote hollows, is that this non-native plant, the yucca plant's everywhere. It must have been somebody got one, and over time everybody got a cutting from it. And again, look for metal, look for stacked stone, depression where the shed was, more foundation stone. I think he had more metal buckets than anywhere I've been to. Of course, you haven't lived, I guess, till you had a bath on a Saturday night in a metal tub. Some of the daffodils still in bloom. The last one, Dewey Slaven, his sister, 1960. That was the end of it. A lot of these old buildings were torn down by the park. Hunters, campers, hikers, through negligence, burned a few down. Some just fell down, deteriorated, but this is one of the better preserved sites. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. Story of the first and the last. Everybody has something you will do for the last time. You don't know when that last time is, so enjoy every moment. Talk to you later. Another homemade culvert. So the other side's stopped up, but there's the one famous one on up the road, but this is another one we are investigating. These people were amazing engineers.